Hello everybody, we're going to pick up where we left off last time and we're going to plow into section 17. The topic here is security, and I will tell you, because I was looking ahead here a little bit in the code, he is going to have us start from scratch with a new application here in just a moment. Now you guys will remember when we first started the course, we played with the MVC music tutorial and they had us do security right from the get-go. And we're going to be playing with that right now, so it'll be a little bit of repeat of what we did. Um, but there are some things that we will learn that are new at the same time. Okay, so really the topic here is authentication, and that basically means that we're going to build in a structure for our application for allowing for login and registration and various types of like password interactivity. Now, for some websites you build, you might never need an authentication system, right? Um, but for some you do. So usually any website that allows for e-commerce, for example, often will either give you an option of, checking out as a guest or needing an account in order to like maximize certain benefits or certain activities. There's also a lot of websites where you want to control access to content that you don't want available to the general public. A really good example is you logging into Blackboard, right? When you log into Blackboard, you have to authenticate yourself, and then of course you get a customized interface depending on what courses you're registered in, etc. Right? And there are, of course, different types of access. So when I log into Blackboard, I get a different listing than you guys, but I also get another benefit that my account also has a certain permission level that allows me not only to look at content, but to author the content um, and to do grading and things like that. So, obviously, authentication is an important part of application building these days, really depending on the type of application that you are uh, creating. So right off the bat here, he's having us create a new uh, application. So I'm going to move this off to the second screen as per normal, and we'll start building here on the main screen. Just doing a little arrangement right now on my second screen, if you're wondering, just so I can see my recorder and the PDF at the same time. And I hope that you guys do the same thing at home, that you are working with multiple screens, because it really is a better way to work when you code. All right, let's go ahead and create a new project. Now, if you've been working in nothing but this class, this should be very routine for you. I had a couple of emails over the last week or two from some of the online students. And of course, the online students don't always benefit from some of the banter that we have here in the classroom, especially when I hit the pause button on the recorder. So sometimes I maybe omit certain things from the recorded version, and I apologize that for all the online people. But I do want to make sure that when you guys are doing your application and you're creating new, that you are using the .NET framework to build your application. And I know I had at least one person that I think was choosing the core, which is the new ASP.NET tools, and those are the ones that are actually cross-platform. However, if you're doing MVC in that format, it does not have menu options and like your dialog boxes for selecting those things. But you can still build MVC, I've been discovering, inside that framework. You just have to do all the pieces manually, which is a little bit cumbersome. All right, go ahead and choose the second option here. Looks like they're naming this one MVC Security Demo. So I'll type that in. I'm also going to be really careful though, because I'm noticing that's trying to store it locally. I really do want it in a cloud location, and I have been using my OneDrive to do that. And you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and make another new folder here and call it MVC Security. No particular reason, I just feel like doing it, so I'm doing it. And go ahead and click OK. All right, we're going to choose MVC, of course. We're also going to make sure that we have the folders and core references selected. We're not adding unit tests at this point, but if you wanted to, of course, you could do that. And we are going to change the authentication method, and we are going to choose individual user accounts. So that means that the account management is happening within the application itself. I do want you to notice, though, that there are other types here. We discussed these earlier in the course. But just to reiterate, this system that's built into Visual Studio does allow you to use other authentication systems aside from being built right into the app. One of them is to use the authentication system that's built into Windows. So that's a definite possibility. So you might be asking yourself, why would you bother to have that option if you're putting it out on the web? Well, because a lot of times you do write web-based applications that actually do push to a native operating system, so that might actually be a pertinent choice for you. The other possibility is that you are working with worker school accounts where, like Gateway here, for example, when you log into Blackboard or your email, you get that gateway screen, right? And that actually just goes to one server that does all the authenticating, and then once you're clicked to like you're good, then you're into whatever application you want to go to. But we are choosing individual in this case. Click OK. All right, we're going to let it build out the project for us. Take just a moment. Makes me want to pause, so I will. All right, so even on my fast little i7 with an SSD here, still took a little while to do that. It was maybe like a half a minute or so, enough to make me pause the video, but it did finally finish. I'm going to bring up the Solution Explorer in the sidebar here. All of my little palettes are collapsed right now, but that's certainly one that we want to look at. All right, the book does go through talking about all the different authentication methods, and I gave you a very brief overview. If you want to read a little bit more, you could dig into our regular textbook or read what's in the PDF, but I'm actually scrolling down now to page 138, where I'm going to continue. All right. Notice that the PDF shows kind of a different screen after the product is created, but really we're getting the same information. It's just laid out a little bit differently. Another thing you might want to notice is that because we're using all these automatic authentication tools, if you look at all the stuff that's off to the side here, you are going to notice that if you expand, for example, your scripts folder, and that's probably the one that's probably got the most stuff in it, notice all the jQuery libraries that are already built in. So one of the things it was doing in the background is it was running the NuGet tool and pulling in all these libraries and installing them. Bootstrap's there, Respond is there, jQuery is there. I mean, that's a lot of JavaScript alone that's being thrown in. If you want to like explore some of the other spots here, you're going to notice that they have tools once again that are built for managing your account. They even have like font sets that are being dropped in, and some of those are to give you little indicators on the screen. The account controller, of course, is added, so is the manage controller. You got to remember that not only are you going to have an interface to allow people to log in and register, but you're also going to have an admin interface that's going to allow you to manage the user accounts on top of it all. So that's the why. So I would recommend that you do that. Just go through all the folders and kind of familiarize yourself with some of the stuff that's getting thrown in. And the next thing they want us to do, we're at the top of page, or bottom of 138, top of 139, is go ahead and run the application. Yes, we can run it right now because we are building off of a framework, and because it's doing the whole bootstrap thing. It already built us a beautiful website. We've seen this already at the beginning of the course, and it's all set to go. So let's just give it a moment to load up. Once it gets loaded up here, we are actually going to go ahead and click to register. So let's wait for this to load. There it finally is. So I'm going to go ahead and click the register button, and I'm hoping that you guys that are in the classroom here, you guys are probably farther ahead than I am. And let me ask you a question before I actually go typing in an email address here. Why do a lot of websites have you log in or create a user account using an email address? What's the rationale behind that? Well, okay, yeah, they're collecting your data. That's a good point. But believe it or not, the reason that a lot of people have switched to this system is a little bit different than you might think. And that is, if you have an email account on any system out in the world, it's very possible that you might have a username on that email system that is identical to somebody else's on some other system. But the chance that it's going to, it's going to be unique to that domain, so you know it's going to be a unique name. Yeah, and yes, there's a little data mining going on there too, right? There's no free lunch, folks, just a little bit, right? But Google's listening right now. Sorry, Lord Google. So I'm going to use my school account to log in. And, oops, I'm going to get the @ sign in there. And I'm going to choose one of my standard passwords, which I'm sure you guys are probably guessing already. And I'm doing this on purpose, right? Because one of my standard passwords is password, for stupid stuff like this. Not stupid, learning environments like this. But I'm trying to see if it actually tells me that maybe it's not a good idea. So let's see if it, aha! Well, you guys noticing it does have authentication, but it's not because of the dumb password I type. It must have at least one non-letter or digit character and one uppercase. Did I code any of this? No. It's beautiful, right? But it is the kind of security that you want to put in place. So I'll use the same password I use on my SharePoint server. We'll see how it goes with that one. So if I have SharePoint students, you guys know what I'm talking about. If not, oh well. I'm not going to bother saving it right now. Maybe in the future. Who knows? All right. So hopefully you are now logged in and registered. And up in the menu bar at the top, you should see that it is recognizing who you are and indicates your login name right there. And hopefully you guys succeeded with that. There's no reason why this shouldn't work for you, because we're not really tying into any external databases or configuring any connections or setting up models for it. It's all handled automatically. It's beautifully simple. And I really like it a lot. It's one of my favorite features about this framework. Compared to a lot of other frameworks, like those of you that did the Ruby on Rails class, that had a similar type of system, but it really was not this smooth. We had to do a lot of manual configuration to really make it work this well. So that's one thing that I like. All right, go ahead and click on your username in the menu bar. I'm sorry, I'm kind of fumbling with my words here as I'm thinking about this. And notice when you click on that, it actually takes you to a manage page where you can actually manage your account. So if you want, you could actually go ahead and change your passwords. So that's one thing you could do. I'm not going to actually do that, but please feel free to do that if you want. And then it also shows external logins, and you can actually click on that if you want. And notice that there's no external authentication services configured. So that's because we made that one choice. But I want you to think back to what we were talking about, where that if you do school or work connections, where often they have a dedicated authentication server, you can actually connect that up here And I think that's really kind of cool because that means, of course, that you could directly log in, or you can go in through the third-party service. Now, third-party services don't just have to be work or school accounts. They could be services, and you guys have probably seen this, like Facebook or Google, right? So you go to like a site and they want you to register. It just says sign in with your Facebook account. You click the button and you're all done, right? So that links it all up. Now, there's more data mining there. So if you guys are worried about that piece of it, maybe you want to skip that. Right. But if you do want to change your password, that's the place to do it, or check those third-party services. Go ahead and click the log off button. That's the next instruction. So we're moving on to page 142. And then it should take you back here, and then it should show the register and login. Go ahead and click login again, and see if you can log in. Hopefully you can. Hopefully you remember what your password was. And go ahead and log in. So it did remember. All right, in the next part of this section or chapter, or whatever you want to call it, I'm on page 143. And what they want us to do is to start to look at some of the structures that actually handle this stuff behind the scene in a little more detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close the browser window here and let the application stop. I'm going to bring up my Solution Explorer, and we're going to start to dig in first into the Views folder. And we're going to look at some of the stuff in the shared subfolder. The one in particular they want us to open is the layout CS.html file. And let's just take a look at how they're putting this together. So the first thing you're going to notice is, of course, standard HTML document structure. Remember that this layout file that we're looking at, when it is prefaced with an underscore, it's a view file, but an underscore at the beginning of the name implies a partial view. That means it's not a complete page. So if I look at this, it's not complete because we are going to be injecting the content into it. Okay? So this is kind of like a template of sorts that we're going to be using. All right. Notice the way that Bootstrap works. And Bootstrap, of course, is one of our most popular CSS templating systems out there. And remember, the reason why people use Bootstrap is because when you learn all the tags that go with Bootstrap, it takes a little while to learn them, but once you learn them, you just do what they are doing here, which is you add a whole bunch of class declarations, usually just to generic div items. That's on purpose. And the reason they put them on divs is because divs don't have a lot of pre-configured styles and baggage that come with them, so there's no pre-assumption as to what they are. So you add your class tags to it, and then that adds adds responsiveness to it automatically. Right? We don't formally teach Bootstrap in our program because it's really only one of many different frameworks like that, but it's certainly the most popular one. And that I don't think that's going to be changing anytime soon. All right. We do have a navigation bar, obviously, that appears here. And then notice the little icon bar. So it pulls in little sprites and things. Let's go on and back to Solution Explorer, and let's take a look at the login partial. So this is a true partial in the sense of the word. And in this case, notice there's no doc type at the top or at the bottom. No closing HTML elements. This is just the part that makes the registration work. So this is done in pieces. If you go back to the layout, you notice right here on line 28 how we pull those partial components in. Now we don't have to say that it's a .cs HTML file, it's implied, but we just use the little razor tag that that pulls in that piece. So there's your partial view. Notice that at the bottom of that partial view, they have a couple of action links put in. And there are in here, and I don't know if you guys caught this or not, as part of the Razor directive, they show you that there's actually a conditional here. So if you sign in successfully, you are authenticated. Are you authenticated? Is authenticated. Then you will get certain stuff up on the screen. So it'll say hello. It'll give you the ability to get to some of the other things that allow you to manage things. Otherwise, it will pop up the ability to register or log in again. So it gives you another opportunity to log in, but more importantly, it also allows you to register if you're not a registered user. All right, now we're at the bottom of page 145 and a little section called authorization. And the guy who writes this says, let's suppose that we have some sort of information which we want to protect from unauthenticated users. So let's create a new controller to display that information, but only when a user is logged in. So this is kind of a fun little process here. So let's go ahead to the controller folder, and I'm going to click my little push pin here because I'm getting sick of opening and closing this all the time, if you guys aren't catching on to that. And I thought I clicked it before, but apparently not. So we're going to go to the controllers folder, and we're going to do a right click, and we're going to do an add, and we're going to choose a controller. Scrolling down to page 146, we're going to choose an empty controller. Go ahead and click add. And we're going to call this one, per the instructions, secret. You must leave the word controller in there. Remember that. I'm sure you guys do from earlier. And then click add. It's doing some scaffolding in the background, so it's building all the automatic tools, and it lands us now on the C# page with the code. And the only thing that gets automatically built into this, you guys, is the index view, the one that just generates the view for the controller. Now I'm noticing that on the bottom of page 146, it says it will have two actions inside as shown in the following code. Now mine doesn't have that, does yours? Right. Okay, so I'm wondering if this is just kind of a typo here, because we added an empty controller, so it should come back the way it came. But I think what he is meaning to say here, and I'm highlighting it in my PDF for future reference, that we basically have to add that code in. That's the way I'm reading it. All right. But now I'm noticing no, and actually I'm going to bite my words there. I'm not noticing it at all, so please ignore me. And let's go ahead and start to change some of this stuff here. So we have the index view. I'm actually going to leave that alone for right now, but I am going to come back and I'm going to type in the stuff that I see in the book. So it's split across pages, so I'm going to paste it in pieces. And of course, clean it up in the aftermath. Added the closing curly bracket for me automatically. Thank you very much. And I'm going to grab the other one from the top of page 147 and paste it right below, like so. And this one wasn't quite as clean a paste. That's okay, we can clean it up. And since the index view is omitted from the example that goes from 146 to 147, I'm actually going to comment out the index code on purpose. Now I want you to notice the two return statements and how they're named. One is called secret, the other one's called public. So the whole goal here is this way we'll be able to tell when we hit this controller if we're logged in or not. Okay, so obviously we're going to be testing this. Make sure you do a Control S to save that. So now we're going to run this, and I want you to notice on page 147 near the top, when they run it, what the URL is. So let's run this, and then we'll call upon, okay, so now we're getting build errors. So I do want to say no. Okay, so where are we expecting, okay, where did I blow away a curly bracket? Let's go back and look here. All right, so I'm double checking the code from the example. I commented out the index view. I just need a closing one. Apparently I must have deleted it. Hopefully you guys didn't do that. Right? Looks correct. Control S to save. No need to panic. Hit play. If only our coding problems were all so simple, right? All right, so there's our application. We are not logging in, mind you, but we are going to just come right up here to the top, and we're going to add secret, and you notice secret. We're typing that in twice. So conceptually, we're calling upon the controller, and then when we call the secret method inside the secret controller, that's why it's secret secret, it will return this content, right? All right. What if we type, and you guys maybe have done this already, public info. It pulls back the public info. The book's not asking you to do that, but right now we're not protected really, are we, right? Because we didn't log in and we can still see it. So now we got to make that happen. So let's go ahead and stop the run, stop the server. We're going to go back into our controller file here, and right above, in square brackets, we're going to type authorize. Now, frankly, I don't know how they could make it any simpler for us, right? So we're saying that in order for this method to work, we must authorize. So save that, launch again. So let it load up. Try running that same URL, secret secret. Pretty nice, right? Forcing us to authenticate. Let's go ahead and log in. We're logged in, and not only that, but it takes us right to the page. That's pretty slick, you guys, isn't it? Right? All right. All right. So that really covers the next couple of pages of example screenshots and stuff. So I'm down to page 149 right now. Try getting to the public info page. It should let us in, right? Hit your back button a couple of times so that you end up back here. And actually, are we logged in still? It doesn't look like it, but we actually are. So really, when I hit the back button and I ended up here, that's not a current view. You really want to do a Control F5 there, and now you're noticing that you are actually logged in. Right. If you log off, just try it again. I mean, it's pretty intuitive what it's going to do. Type secret secret. It's prompting us to log in. We're going to bypass that, and we're just going to go to public or secret, public info. That still comes up. Next point that they're making here, at the bottom of page 149, there's a little blurb and some sample code. What if you want everything in this controller to be authenticated? Where would you place the authorize at that point? Well, the answer to that is you would move the authorize from here and put it above the public class. I mean, that's very simple to do, but now it's applying it to that whole class file and the whole structure. Now we can make a safe assumption now that he's probably going to have us run it again. And he makes this point, this is kind of interesting, which is, but what if you really do want to keep the public info public, right? But everything else in that class file should be private. Then you can add in square brackets here, oops, that one first, allow anonymous. So if we had, let's say, 10 other methods inside of this class, all of them would be private except for this one. And you know what? That's exactly the kind of thing you do with applications, because sometimes you do want stuff to be visible and stuff not to be visible. And really the smart thing to do now is save and run it again. It's the same process. And of course, if you want to like throw some more methods in there, you know, the same way that these were created, just to test it, try that. All right, so let's try secret secret without a login. Fails. We'll go back. Let's try secret public info without a login. We still get it. Still works. All right, let's go ahead and close that browser window, stop the server from running. We are at the middle of page 151 right now, and what we're going to do next is throw in authentication within the code that only is going to allow one particular user to log in. Well, that's pretty restrictive, right? But you might actually need an application that does that. So right up here in authorize, we're going to add a parentheses, and we're going to type in users equals, and then in double quotes, the account. So for me, I use my gateway account. Close the double quotes, close the parens. And now it will be only for me. That's at least the thinking there. Notice we are still allowing anonymous below. And then really the way to test this, of course, is to create another account and see if that account can do it. So let's do all that. Save. Let's run it. All right. Not logged in. Secret secret. Ask me to log in. You know what? I'm going to create a new account. And I'm going to use, oh gosh, what should I use? Some fake account. Not that I would normally do that, but hey, why not? Register. Of course, by virtue of registering, I am already signed in. Let's see if we can get to secret secret. No dice. Right? Asking us to wait. And you should be saying to yourself, oh, wait a second, I'm already logged in. Right? Can I get to the public one? Well, I should be able to. Yes. Let's go back. Let's log off. Let's log in with the first account we created, the one that's included in the authentication. Let's attempt to go to secret. And we're in. So that's kind of neat, actually, that you can do that and that you can actually boil it down and specify it to a particular user. I think that's a pretty powerful feature. No complicated code to write at all. All right, guys, that actually completes section 17 and ends this video. So if you guys successfully did all that and did a great job, and let's move on to the next video and we'll do section 18.